Hello, I'm Miguel Strickland, and this is my IL 692 capstone presentation. The title of my project is District Expectations of Positive Reinforcement Documentation Will Incentivizing Teachers' Work. So the purpose of my research was to determine whether teachers are motivated by incentives, to link positive Bloom referrals into our PBIS school program, and then to reward teachers for their hard work. And so just a little bit about the rationale behind it. We wanted to be able to try to explain the district requirements for these positive Bloom referrals, and also to make sure that we could do different things in our building to boost teacher morale. And so the people who will be directly affected by my research is the school administration and, of course, the teachers in our building, not to mention our students as well. Context and the demographics of the study. The study was taking place at Goldsmith Shiffman Elementary School. A little bit of background knowledge. Huntsville City Schools has been functioning under Department of Justice consent order for quite some time. And that goes into making sure everybody is treated fairly and equitably. And so this kind of ties into that as well with the positive Bloom and the PBIS. And so we wanted to try to explain a little bit the district emphasized push on this positive referrals, because a lot of teachers just kind of see it as more work added to them. And so at Goldsmith Shiffman, we have a total of 909 students. 745 of them are white, 62 are Hispanic, 55 are African American, and then 47 are Asian or Pacific Islander. And so Goldsmith Shiffman is about 4% free and reduced lunch. So just a couple of quotes from the literature that I had in my research that we pieced together. I want the layer of complexity associated with incentivizing teachers is multifaceted nature of motivation, especially in a pro-social industry. Like that when it tied into a much larger paragraph that, of course, I couldn't put entirely on here. But the next one is the tasks associated with the teaching profession are complex. They require multiple inputs, and everybody who has ever been in the field of education definitely knows that and understands it. But this last one is important to my research because it ties directly into putting more on your teachers than they, more than they can do in a day almost. So other factors have contributed to the teacher shortage, such as teaching force work age, the imbalance of high demand and less reward, limited career opportunities, and less job security. So the part about the imbalance of high demand and less reward, we wanted to make sure that if there were more requirements for our teachers, then we could do something to try to, bring some piece of joy and happiness to them and incentivize them in some kind of way. So step one. So step one, we had to figure out what the problem was at Goldsmith Shiffman. And so the thing is we've had Bloom going on for quite a while, which is how we generally document a behavioral infraction. And so positive Blooms have always been in with this platform, but there was never a big push to add anything in there for positive. You just had that option. And so, adding positive to it, it makes teachers spend more screen time doing different things like adding the students in. And so there was a lack of positive Bloom referrals that were entered by the teachers at Goldsmith Shiffman Elementary, but not just my school, the entire district actually. And so what we wanted to do was to correlate the positive Bloom referrals to our PBIS, which is the 4 R's. And so the 4 R's are basically a set of behavioral rules that students follow, whether in the classroom, the hallway, the bathroom, the gym, just the cafeteria, different locations. And so At the end of every day, Miss Doubt that will get on the intercom. If somebody gets a gold standard, and then that ties into our PBIS, then she'll read off names. And so what we want to do, though, is for the students who get a gold standard, we want to tie that directly in to the PBIS and put a positive Bloom referral in the system. And so just for the 2021 school year, Goldsmith Shiffman had a total of 321 Bloom entries, and then 222 of them were positive. Step 2. So the stakeholders, of course, are the teachers, because they're involved on more of the day-to-day, the students, because they get rewards and incentives out of this as well. And then, of course, the administration, who went through the research process and will go back in and then implement, and then also collect data and try to revise, if there's anything we need to revise or fix. It takes, on the teacher's behalf, it takes more time and effort to put in a positive Bloom referral than it does a gold standard. A gold standard is just a carbon copy sheet that the students get with their name on it that says the good deed that they performed. They get a copy to take home to their guardians and show them, and then they get their name announced on the intercom, and then the other part of the carbon copy goes to the front office. So that way the name can be called over the intercom at the end of the day. That, as far as the administrative part of it, if you, as administrators in a school building, if you're not doing what's required by the district, then of course we get negative feedback. A lot of what they would do, they would post to the principals and assistant principals, post, the schools and who's got positive referrals and how many, and just kind of comparing us to our peers. And so, and of course, the students are missing out on incentives if everything is not being documented correctly, and which we want to be able to reward them, during these tough times, especially being in a school building. So step 3. So step 3 was my task force. And so the task force consisted of several teachers, grade level team leads, a student, the SGA president, and then of course the school administrators. And we'll talk a little bit more in depth about that shortly. But the administration, and then, like I said, the lead teachers per grade level, and the president. So the Bloom referrals overall, people just needed to be able to understand, as far as the teachers, like, they wanted to know why there was such a district push on this, and was there anything we could do to make it easier on them, so they didn't have to sit on behind their computer all day, because it's already enough when you're putting in a student for a negative behavior, but then to go back in and have to essentially jump through the same hoops to do the exact same thing to put in for positive is kind of challenging. And so, our teachers' concerns were, the platform is not very user-friendly. Once again, it's a very tedious task to go in and enter a positive Bloom referral compared to just strictly writing out, presenting a student with a gold standard. And so, which is just writing it down, sending that student to the office, and they get to be excited about having that piece of paper to show their guardians when they get home. And then we also talked about, the teacher incentives, just different things we could do to motivate them a little bit, whether it be a gas card, food card, maybe extra planning, maybe something like a duty-free lunch, just different ways to incentivize our teachers. And so step 4, some things about that initial meeting was that we were missing some key members, and missing those people, it may be harder, for people to understand the implementation process and the buy-in. And so, of course, we'll have another meeting to make sure that we include everybody, so everybody is on the exact same page, everybody is caught up, and we're not leaving anyone out. The district leaders for our behavioral learning department They didn't offer any reasoning for this, the emphasis on positive Bloom referrals. And so, over the past 3 years, Goldsmith Shiffman has had roughly, I think, maybe 800 and some odd total Bloom entries. And so, that being said, like, we're talking about discipline and positive Bloom entries. So that being said, the 2021 school year, Goldsmith Shiffman had 222 positive Bloom entries. Over that 3-year period, though, starting in 2018, ending in 2021, Goldsmith Shiffman had a total of 227 positive Bloom referrals, which means over those 3 years before now, they only had 5 because the district didn't put a very large emphasis on it. And so it could be that, coming back from COVID, they wanted to make sure that the students felt acknowledged. It could be because we started the school year and we started virtual, and then our students came back and they were in cohorts. So they were still split up, and then finally they came back all together. And so district never said why they wanted these positive Blooms put in. We just did what was asked of us to do. So the interface, my teachers wanted the interface to be more user-friendly. Just basically, if you could go in and maybe check a box if somebody had a positive Bloom referral, and maybe type a sentence, just something a little bit easier, so it's not as in-depth as it is for when you are adding a negative Bloom referral for discipline. And so there's classroom incentives, and then of course teacher incentives that we talked about. The classroom incentives, we talked about doing popcorn party, pizza party, popsicle parties if it's not in the winter, of course, just to kind of get the students excited about having good behavior. And then, once again, those teacher incentives, teachers work really hard. They're in the classroom with their students, all day long. And so we want to reward them because we are asking them to add another step into something that they already do, but it takes a little bit more of their own time. So we want to be able to reward our teachers and take care of them for the job well done. And so the next step, so we're talking about the correlation, the one-to-one correlation, gold standard to positive Bloom referral. And so what we wanted to do was make sure that in this process that we tied the two together, so that way we are essentially killing two birds with one stone. We are making sure that the gold standard, which is our PBIS, is tied into these positive Bloom referrals, because if you get a gold standard, we want it to be rewarded. And so it should be put in as a positive Bloom referral. So that way the communication goes home to families and stuff, like electronically, digitally, and then they also get to have the hard carbon copy. And it'll be measured monthly by administration, which would be me. So it'll fall on the principal and the assistant principal. And so in my role as the assistant principal, it would be more communication between my principal and I, but I would ultimately be the one who goes in to check the data and make sure I share data with the people who are involved. And so also the teachers who put in these positive Bloom referrals, we want to recognize them as gold standard teachers and then make sure we get them incentives. So step 6 talks a little bit about the solution that I'm proposing. And so the solution is to provide incentives for entering positive Bloom referrals. And so then based on the research, a clear incentive can establish the specificity needed to complete a task. That's kind of what we were researching directly, is are you going to work for this reward, or are you just going to complete the task because it's something that is asked of you on your job duty? And so either way, we want to make sure we're rewarding our teachers for doing the things that they are asked to do. And so it also ensures that teachers are using Bloom frequently, because that is how district wants us to put in, that is how we use it for discipline referrals, so we can track throughout the district. And then the Department of Justice can also see that we are doing things fairly and equitably. But then the incentive, it also supports, the school-wide PBIS. And so the behavior ties in hand. The solution directly impacts the district policy of the PBIS implementation. So we are essentially checking another box that we are asked to do as administrators. And then the solution holds teachers accountable for Bloom usage. And then it gives them visual reminders and different things. And plus, I will be able to give them printouts. I can go in and just tell them by period who's putting it in, just different things. It gives you the data almost immediately. And so you can see how people are using the platform. Step 7. And so these are a couple of the surveys that were sent out. The student positive Bloom incentive, of course, was sent out for the students, so they could pick what they wanted as far as when their teacher meets the requirements, then the students in that classroom get directly rewarded as well. And so the positive Bloom incentive project, I apologize that it is kind of small, but this is the questionnaire we sent out to the teachers, just kind of making sure that we use their input in the way that we were going about forming this incentive program. So they're the ones who are working for it, and we want them to have a hand in the rewards that are coming their way. Step 8, teachers that enter 10 positive Bloom referrals weekly, they get a gift card, and there'll be a selection of gift cards. And from whether, like I said, it'd be a gas card, a food card from somewhere, we'll let them kind of decide things that they're interested in, and then administration will make sure that we purchase the gift cards to have them ready. It'll be one of those things that if they get one weekly, it'll be Monday through Friday. They put them in on the weekend, then we'll go through and we'll check to make sure, and then they will get their gift cards that following Monday. Some other things is that the administration could contact the developer to see if we can simplify the process. Like I said, it's kind of tedious going in to enter a student for a positive referral when it's as lengthy as putting them in for a negative referral. So I think if we contact, the developers, maybe there's a box or something that we could check, or maybe they could add it to where teachers just check a box or type a quick sentence to, or, and that way it's not so daunting and they don't feel like a lot more has been added onto their plate. And so, of course, the winning class gets a pizza party. So once the teacher enters the positive Blooms, they get their name put in basically in a hat for a drawing. And so what we'll do is we'll do it at the end of every 9 weeks, but then the winningest class gets a class pizza party. Okay, so with step 9, the proposed solutions are the gift cards for the teachers that enter the minimum of the 10 Blooms, and then the timeline is starting in August 21, going through May 22. The person responsible are the administrators. The second proposed solution is contact the program developers. Of course, that's in August, and then we should have an idea on whether they're going to be able to add this particular, if they're going to be able to simplify it at all by October. And so that's the administrators as well. And then the third proposed solution is the pizza party for the class with the most positive Bloom referrals that are entered. And so the people that are responsible, that's directly the teachers and the administrators as far as following up and checking out to make sure they're doing what they are required to do. All right, and so step 10, the way that this one ends up kind of falling is that positive Bloom data will be collected from the website by the admin, which will be me. The administrators will collect and review the data every 9 weeks. So once I print it out, my principal and I will get together, we will meet, and we'll have a sit down and kind of go over the data and make sure that it's easily explainable. And then that way we can present it to our faculty and staff. The quantitative data will be presented to the teachers. And so the qualitative data that was used will be collected via the reflective survey. And then we will go over those things with the teachers as well once we get the survey results back. And then step 11, from the data that is reviewed 9 weeks, the task force will meet to discuss the progress of how the program is going. We will meet via Zoom, and then administration will provide the data at meetings when we meet, and we can go ahead and schedule meetings, or we can, have a meeting, like I said, that every 9 weeks. But if we need one before that to adjust some things, we can do that as well. Then the task force can add members at any point in time upon implementation, because we may have to adjust the size of our group, of course, add teachers to it once this gets off the ground. And so it's my references that I use throughout the whole entire research process. And then the appendices, I'm sorry that they are so small, but just to kind of give you an idea, some of the information in here, some of the data is kind of skewed, because there's a particular school, for instance, that has 486 discipline referrals. Then they have 539 positive referrals. I mean, there's another school, the very first school has 167 discipline referrals, and 810 positive referrals. And that gives them a total of 977. So, we really want to push real data out. We want to be able to share real things, not just put a bunch of positives in because they're requesting us to do it, but we want to make sure the kids are behaving in the correct way, they're following the rules. And so that way it's not just, some made up kind of data to appease people, but it's actually real life stuff that's affecting the way that our school building is being ran. And so here are the Alabama standards that I feel that I mastered throughout this research process. And that is the end of my presentation. So thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate it greatly. I'm looking forward to your feedback. Thank you.